Hello, I'm Katie. I'm a Human Rights Officer here at BIHR. So earlier this year I was part of our Practice Leads programme with the Scottish Recovery Consortium, which was a really unique opportunity for BIHR because we were working not only with a community group, with working with people who all have lived experience and co-developing and co-delivering this programme, but it was also an area which we hadn't really worked in before, the area of recovery and the recovery community. And the people that were on the programme were people who hadn't really thought about human rights, they hadn't really had much training about human rights, they didn't have much knowledge about human rights, and for them human rights were quite abstract. They didn't believe that they had human rights. They had lived experience of recovery and addiction, so they didn't actually believe that they felt worthless. They didn't know that they had human rights. So what we wanted to do is we really wanted to contextualise human rights and make them as relevant as possible. And we sort of did that by making sure that each session focused on a different theme, a different issue which people in recovery face, and making sure that they knew how human rights could be applied for that. So that was things like residential rehabilitation, lack of choice in treatment, medication-assisted treatment programmes, access to mental health care. These were all areas which we've been told were really important for people who are going through active addiction or recovery. So we sort of made them rights-based and showed people how they could use human rights to sort of challenge decisions. And by the end of the programme, I found that there's a 66% increase in knowledge about human rights, but there's also a 60% increase in confidence, and that was really important for people who didn't even know they had rights, to have that confidence to challenge public bodies. That was really valuable. And they have been doing so. They've been challenging policies and decisions and making sure that people that they work with are involved in decisions about their lives. And one participant actually got in contact with me recently to tell me that they take a photo of our 16 rights, image to every workshop they go to, every event they go to, and they tell everyone who walks past and says, do you know that you've got these 16 rights? And a lot of people say, no, why would I have rights? I'm in the recovery, I'm an addict. And just by doing that, it's empowering people and it's having that massive change in all these different people's lives.
Hiya, my name is Phoebe and I'm a Human Rights Officer at the British Institute of Human Rights. I started on October this year, so that's not a very long time, but thankfully in that time we had Human Rights Day. So Human Rights Day was on the 10th of December, and because that was a Saturday, we ran our event the Thursday before, so that was on the 8th. It was an online event which was aimed at communities and voluntary groups to promote human rights and hopefully inspire them to use human rights more often in their day-to-day setting. So speaking at the event, we had 3 groups who we have worked with in the past, and that was Pembrokeshire People First, Hopscotch Women's Centre and the Scottish Recovery Consortium. And so their speakers explained how they've worked with us over the past year or so and how that has enabled them to use human rights in a more effective way throughout their organisations. It was also an opportunity for us to launch our new Communities of Voluntary Awareness groups, which is our latest project, which means that we will again be working with communities to try and find some sort of human rights solution that they really need. There's more information about all of this on our website. So yes, my highlight of 2022 was our Human Rights Day.
So I joined BIHR in September of this year as the Parliamentary and Policy Assistant, and I think my highlight has been working as part of a larger group of 200 civil society organisations to resist the Rights Removal Bill, and that work has involved meeting every 2 weeks and then also meeting as part of a smaller steering group of organisations to sort of plan strategic aims as to how we want the coalition to go about that work. Then, like more generally, that work has involved sort of sharing the resources that BIHR has created, which you can find on our website in our Rights Removal Bill hub, sharing things like our Right to MP resource, and then just like general updates regarding our parliamentary work and meeting with MPs and peers.
Hi, I'm Helen and I'm the Research and Communications Associate at BIHR. And one of the highlights of 2022 for me has been working on our Rights Committee. So RIGHTS stands for Real Life Insights, Tips, Experiences and Stories. And it's a committee made up of people with real experience of using the Human Rights Act to bring about positive change. So there's people on the committee who work in public bodies, there's people who've used the Act to advocate for themselves and the people they love, there's people from different nations across the UK and working in different sectors. And the committee was first set up in response to the government's rights removal bill, but it's been so integral in making sure that all the work that BIHR does to stand up for our Human Rights Act puts people's voices at the centre of it, and really amplifies what human rights mean in real life and can mean every day for everybody. So the committee has contributed to BIHR's briefings. They've also submitted their own response to the Joint Committee on Human Rights call for evidence about the Bill of Rights bill. And we also had some members who came and spoke at our Human Rights Day event this year. And at that event, Sian, who's one of our members, said, it really feels like being part of a community and it feels like it's just the start. And I would definitely second that. And it's been such a great experience to work on this year.
Hi, my name's Catherine and I'm a Senior Human Rights Officer at the British Institute of Human Rights, and I would like to talk about two highlights this year. Firstly, for me, a great success was some work that we did with an NHS Foundation Trust earlier in the year to support human rights capacity building for staff working in forensic mental health wards, which is quite a new but very, very interesting area for us to work in. After we delivered the programme, 97% of staff said that they felt more confident about using human rights in their practice and spoke about how they felt more able to use human rights frameworks to support their decision making, and that they wanted to support people using forensic services to know and feel confident about using their human rights. And many people also spoke about feeling more confident and more able to challenge blanket policies. And actually, after the end of the programme, the Trust decided to review and amend a previous blanket policy around no access to smartphones or mobile phones on the mental health forensic wards. Another success for me has just also been all the work we've done with advocacy organisations and self-advocates this year. It's been an absolute joy to work with advocates, to support them, to feel more confident about using the Human Rights Act and having that real light bulb moment of how the Human Rights Act goes hand in hand with advocacy and can really make a difference to the work that advocates do every single day.
Hi, I'm Sanchita. I'm the CEO at the British Institute of Human Rights, and I think it's safe to say that 2022 has been quite a year for human rights generally in the UK, and also for BIHR. We began the year with a very poor consultation from the government to essentially scrap our Human Rights Act and replace it with a rights removal bill. We did a lot of work around challenging that, moved very quickly into a bill being presented into Parliament, and then lots of political turmoil in the second half of this year with the bill being paused, being unpaused, and we're not entirely sure where we do end the year. But for BIHR, what I am sure about is that our work to secure the Human Rights Act has had a really important impact, and that's primarily based on our ability to amplify lived experience in our policy work, which is possible because of the programmes that we run, which are all focused on human rights practice, working with community groups and with staff in public bodies, really to make the Human Rights Act not just a piece of law, but actually a tool for how we live our lives and how we deliver the services that people need in order to live with dignity and respect. And I'll leave it to the rest of the team to talk about the detail of what that actually looks like. But I think for me as the CEO, one of the important things that comes from all of that work is that we have been able to really demonstrate the value of the Human Rights Act for each one of us in our everyday lives. And from that, we've been able to develop new funding relationships, to bring new grant funders into the organisation to further grow our work, not just in terms of the amount of work that we're doing, but also the depth of our work, and really importantly to sustain and grow our organisation and our team. So we've been able to bring in new team members who bring in new energy, lots of experience from other different areas of work to really complement our multidisciplinary team. And we've also been able to bring in lived experience in a very clear and deliberate way. whether that's through our 3 brilliant lived experience experts, Charlie, Hannah and Kirsten, who work with us on our programmes to ensure that people's voices and experiences are right at the heart of our human rights change programmes, or whether that is through our Rights Committee to amplify lived experience in our policy work to secure the Human Rights Act. So as I said, I'll leave it to the rest of the team to talk about the actual kind of details of the work, because there are so many kind of moments to choose from 2022, which, despite the political narrative and the kind of very hostile environment that we're operating in terms of the Human Rights Act, we have real moments of hope at the work that is being done with organisations, either to secure the Human Rights Act or the work to make our rights real in everyday life.
Hi, my name's Carolyn. I am the Head of Policy and Programmes at the British Institute of Human Rights, and my highlight for 2022 has been our parliamentary work, focused on trying to protect our Human Rights Act from the UK government's attempts to replace it with a dangerous and discriminatory Bill of Rights bill, better known as the Rights Removal Bill. Now, it's strange to have a highlight of something which is so scary, the UK government's attempts to scrap our human rights protections. However, the reason it's my highlight is because of our approach to it, and that's the approach of making sure that the voices of people with lived experience of using our Human Rights Act are heard by those in positions of power. And we've done this through briefings, through stories, through guides, and through parliamentary events and meetings. And the highlight was hearing Baroness Sarah Ludford stand up in the House of Lords and read the words of Kirsten, who is a lived experience expert who used the Human Rights Act to challenge her son's treatment under the Mental Health Act. That's something that will stay with me for a long time, and work that I want to continue into 2023.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm one of the Human Rights Officers at BIHR. My highlight of the year was being involved in our new community programme. 2022 was the beginning of our new 3-year programme, which aims to strengthen the agency and voice of community and voluntary groups to address social justice issues using human rights. For the last couple of months, I've been drawing on the learning from our pilot projects, planning for this new project, and a couple of weeks ago we launched the first phase, which is the awareness raising workshops for community and voluntary groups to learn more about the Human Rights Act, which you can apply for now. At the Human Rights Day event where we launched the project, we heard some really impactful stories of how groups and individuals we've been working with are using human rights for change. And I'm just really looking forward to continuing that work in 2023.
Hi, I'm Phil Moore, the Operations Manager at BIHR, and one part of my role here is to help book in, schedule and administer the workshops that our human rights officers deliver to various organisations across the UK. That's both voluntary and third sector organisations seeking to improve their understanding of human rights, as well as public bodies and services who are looking to upskill their staff on human rights law and help them make rights respecting decisions. And while I don't have an individual highlight of the year in relation to this area of our work, I feel it is worth noting that over the course of 2022, our human rights officers have actually delivered over 300 such workshops, on which there have been well over 3,000 attendances. So an achievement well worth noting.